I'm glad to have a chance for us to visit just a minute today, and I appreciate you checking in on this blog. We live in a time of lots of transitions, and things we thought were nailed down are coming loose, and things we didn't dream would ever come about we're finding flying through the air at us. And it's just a really strange time in the life of the nation and really globally. But there's a constant in life that God gives us, and that's our walk with Him. Psalm 1 talks about a godly man's like a tree planted. Well, you don't see trees up moving around and walking. They stay pretty stable. And the truth is, as we walk with God and are grounded in God, we have stability. But I do think it's interesting that one of the words we don't hear a lot about, but that we really sense is out of whack when we see some things people do, is the word integrity. It really comes from that old word we learned when we were children, the word integer. An integer, if you remember, was a whole number, not a fraction or a partial, nothing, divided. It was a whole number, an integer. And then we hear often the word integrated, and that means non-segregated. It means we're all together. Whatever the grouping is, it means it's all together. Well, then the word integrity comes from those same roots, and it means a person is whole. There are not avenues in your life that are divided. There's not corridors or doors that I do this on this day and this on this day, and I'm this way with one person and this way with another, and I have this belief when I'm talking to them, but have a different belief over here. It's all together. We find a lot of people today, they're not living in integrity. They're not whole. They're not all together. Johnny Manziel is a name that was known for football in college and thought he was going to really do great. But he has a character flaw. He's not integrated. He's not a man of integrity. We think of the coach at Penn State, Jerry Sandusky, who was obviously in a great program for college football, but found out late in his career he had major character flaws. He was not a man of integrity. We think about a man named Bertie Madoff, who loved to play with other people's money and did it well until it got in so deep he couldn't get out. And we found out he was not a man of integrity. His values were not integrated with who he was. I find it interesting that even Solomon talked about integrity. He said in Proverbs 10:9, the man of integrity walks securely. He who takes crooked paths will be found out. Proverbs 11:3, again, Solomon's the author. Integrity of the upright guides them. It was the psalmist who would write in Psalm 25:21, may integrity protect me. God, my hope is in you. Well, there's two or three things real quickly about integrity that make it valuable. First of all, it increases in value with time. When a company is successful over a period of time, you said their values, their core values are right, and they live by those core values. They are a company that is a company of integrity. We find that something that's good, the longer it exists, the more value it is. That's why antiques have great value. If they're pristine, if they're well cared for, if they've got the stamp of the original maker, if they show the signs of the age that they were new and still look good now, their value goes up. Well, for a person that is true at the beginning of life, true in the middle of life, and true through the end of life, their value as a person goes up, and the legacy they leave is greater. Value always increases with time if the basic product is something with integrity. It's integrated well. I find it interesting that we always marvel at weddings when the groom gives the bride a ring and vice versa. And I've said many times at a wedding, standing there with the bride when she's got that beautiful ring that he's about to put on her finger with diamonds and gold and silver, I say to the bride, now if this husband of yours was going to give you these gems today in their original form, you'd throw them at him because they look rough and they're rugged and they're not polished and pure. Well, they have to go through great difficulty to have great value. And guess what? If you are a person of integrity, every part of your character is going to be tested, not to destroy it, but to verify you are what you say you are. And every time you verify your integrity, the greater your worth. I think it's also interesting that actions demonstrate our integrity. The Bible says this, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Now what does that mean? Just what it says. How do I know if a computer is going to do what it's touted to do? Well, the people selling the computer said, listen, this hard drive is proven. Whatever you put on this hard drive, here's what it can do, and it will perform at this level, and it's guaranteed and certified to do so. Oh, so what's in the core is what I can expect by way of the delivery. Yeah. Guess what? What I am at the core is what others can expect by way of delivery. The Bible doesn't talk always about integrity, but it talks about this word. Jesus in his Beatitudes, the very first sermon he preached to start his ministry, he had one of those Beatitudes that says, blessed are the pure in heart. What does that mean? They have integrity. And then here's what he said, they're the ones going to see God. That doesn't just mean someday. You know, when you walk pure in heart and integrity, you see God opening doors before you. You can see God providing wisdom along the way. You see God's handiwork in the things that you're doing. The person who walks in purity of heart is the person who gets close enough to God, I can see what he's doing today. Wow. See, integrity gets more value as it goes along. Secondly, your actions demonstrate that's really what you are. And thirdly, integrity allows a person to live in complete peace with themselves. You know, at the end of the day, you want to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know, to the best of my ability today, I honored God. I did what I said I would do. I followed through on phone calls. I met deadlines. People that I couldn't get to today, I called to let them know, I'm sorry, but I'll do that tomorrow. At the end of the day, you want to be able to look at your face in the mirror and say, to the best of my ability, God, I did today what you'd have me to do. If you have to lie to yourself, you're in real trouble. I was fascinated. February of 1996, a young couple got married and evidently were pretty well-to-do because when they got ready to leave for their honeymoon, they were so excited about getting in the car and getting away that the man put a black case on top of his car, and he's in his hurry just to get his bride in and get away, he left the black case on the car. And when they got to their honeymoon site, the black case they were looking for, and he asked the bride, where is it? She said, well, you had it. And he looked and he thought, uh-oh, I left it on the car. Well, obviously, it wasn't on the car. They had lost it along the journey. Well, they were sick. They got married in Chicago, and if you lose a bag off a car, chances you find it are slim. But this bag had $12,000 in wedding gifts in cash. It was a pretty well-to-do family. The man thought, I can't believe I've lost $12,000 the first day of my wedding, of my marriage. They grieved for 2 days of their honeymoon, and on the end of the second day, they got a phone call, and a man had turned in that black bag with $12,000 cash, unmolested, still in the bag. His name was David Yee, Y-I, Yee. When they interviewed David, he was unemployed. He barely had a place to stay. He had bills that were overdue, and he just wondering, how am I going to pay for them? He had found on the side of a road a black leather bag with $12,000, and he turned it in, didn't take a dime. When they asked him, Mr. Yee, why would you do that? Even the police, what made you turn that in knowing your conditions? Because they saw his address when he posted where he's from. They knew it was a tough side of town without a whole lot of opportunity to progress. Why'd you turn this in? He said, well, truly, whether it's $5 or $50 or $1,000 or $12,000, at the end of the day, I got to look at me and realize I was honest and I did what was right. He said, I'd much rather put my head on a pillow tonight owing people than know I'd taken something that wasn't mine. When they did a background check on this young man, they found out that a year before, a lady in the tenement house where he lived had lost $50. He found it in a stairwell as he was walking off to the side. He saw it in a crevice. He got it, took it to the door, knocked on the door, and gave the lady $50. She began to cry. What made David Yee that kind of a man? He had integrity. You know, Paul would write this, 2 Timothy, when he wrote the young preacher Timothy, 2 Timothy 2:15. He said, Timothy, work really hard, study, work really hard to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that never needs to be ashamed. That's the sign of true integrity. God bless you.